Hi everyone, Beady-Eyed Beth here. Welcome to my cabin workshop. And today I'm going to make a New York City subway token ring. I've already got a 15-minute condensed version video, how-to video of this on my YouTube channel. But I thought some of you who may be interested would like to see the entire process start to finish in real time. So I won't be doing any close-ups. Once in a while I'll hold it up for you to see. But what you see here is what you get. This way you can see everything that I'm doing on the work surface, on my hydraulic press, on the ring stretcher and reducer. And I do have, it's not really showing up in the camera right now, but right here I've got a torch. It's MAP gas. I wear very strong reading glasses so I can see little tiny fine details as I'm working. And I always wear a mask. Whenever you see me using the flex shaft, the rotary tool, I'm wearing a mask because nobody needs to be breathing in little bits of brass because that's what's going to be flying through the air as I'm making this ring. So I'm going to get started. I have the chat open if anybody comes in and has questions. I do not engage in trolls, so don't even try. And if you're watching the replay, you can always comment later on if you have any questions. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to take this New York City Transit Authority cutout Y token. That's the name of this particular token. These were made in the 70s and 80s, 1970s and 80s. They were good for one fare in the New York City transit system that was subways and buses. They don't use these anymore. Now you get a Metro card and it costs a lot more than these used to back in the day. Okay, so the first thing I've got to do is heat this up so the metal becomes malleable, becomes soft enough to work with. And then I'm going to punch out the center. And I do save the centers and I make earrings out of them. So nothing goes to waste. I end up using the entire token. And if you'd like to see close-up pictures of these or perhaps order a ring for yourself or as a gift, my website is beadyeyedbeth.com, the same as my YouTube channel. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to heat this under the torch for just a few seconds and drop it in the bowl of water here. Okay, I am using copper tongs. And as I'm heating it up, I'm moving it side to side like this. I don't think it showed up in the picture, but you can also watch that 15-minute video if you want more detail. Okay, now, using this Harbor Freight punch and die set, which costs, at the time I bought this, it was about 50 bucks, okay? I like it because you can see the top is clear, and I'll show you why I like it. It really helps when centering the token, and you have to center the token as closely as possible so your ring does not come out wonky and you don't have to do a lot of correction after the fact. So I just take it and I slide it, and I'm using a 1/2-inch punch here, and I can see through the top as I move it around that little inside part of the design. It's like a circle within a circle, and that's almost 1/2 inch circle. So if I have just a little ridge around the outside, evenly spaced, then I know I've got it about as centered as I possibly can get it. Sometimes after years and years of use, these have kind of become misshapen, I guess, going through machines and all. They're just maybe a little bit elongated, not a perfect circle in some cases. And if I have to correct, it's easy enough to do. It can be time consuming, so I just try to avoid that in this first step here. So that's it. It's centered. Punch in. Hydraulic press. This is also a Harbor Freight tool. Make sure it's tightened. Okay, it's going to be a loud pop. And just push it all the way through. Sorry about that squeak. Okay, raise it up. And now I use a shorter, thinner punch to push that thick one all the way through. And it'll drop through the bottom into that little plastic container I've got down here. There we go. What you saw me do here was just put a little bit of Vaseline just to help lubricate this as it goes through. And that's it. It's got a nice clean hole punched in the center. You can see it right up here. Let's see if I can get closer. Just using a little file to push that out. Get that out of my way. And now the close-up. Like a little donut. Okay, now I start shaping it into a ring. Clean that Vaseline off first. Okay. I've got a little metal doming block here. And I find the size closest to just a little bit larger than the coin. It would normally just fit in like that, but metal to metal is going to mar this. It's going to mess it up. So I use just a thin piece of suede to protect it and kind of push it in place. It tightens it a little also. Put another piece on top. Oh, here's the one I usually use. Is that it? Well, I'll try it. Okay. And using a very heavy hammer. It's going to get loud. Turn your volume down. I hit it about 5 or 6 times. Okay. Got a little off center there. So I'm going to have to do it again. It did slide out of place. The beauty of live streaming. You get to see all the mistakes and everything that goes wrong. But that's okay. I can actually feel it giving with each time I hit it with the hammer. And once it stops, I know it's gone as far as it can go. I don't feel it giving anymore. I'm going to do it just one more time. I'm going to use a different size. Hang on. A little bit smaller, I think. Let's see what happens. Okay, good. This particular customer has ordered a size 7 1/4. This starts the ring process right here. You got to get a little bit of a dome to get it to fit on the ring stretcher. All right. Now, punching at the center and then hammering it like that has work hardened the metal again. So I'm going to heat it up a little bit more just for a few seconds to get it nice and soft again. Not melted, just soft. If I was using silver, I wouldn't even have done it for that long. I do make rings out of 90% silver quarters, state quarters, the collectible ones. And I learned my lesson early on that silver has a low melting point. All right, ready to start stretching it. This one feels, sometimes I like to just check to make sure there are no jagged edges or little splits that might tear. As I stretch it, I don't feel any. It feels nice and smooth. This is a ring stretcher. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 plates that come together as a cone. And when you push the lever backwards, those 4 plates separate and move out. And as it does that, it stretches the ring. I'll put it on top. It's also got ring sizes on it. 7 1/4 is right about here. So I know to go that far. If it's not a nice ring shape, I'll go a little further and then reduce it back down here on the reducing plate. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when it gets down that far. I'm turning it a quarter turn each time I stretch it, so I'm not stressing the same area over and over, because that you do that and you're asking for a split. You don't want it to split. And I go slow. There's some people that really go fast on these. I don't see the point of it, other than maybe they're just trying to show off. But I'm about making a decent quality ring. Okay, I'm at about a 6 1/4 now. I could turn it over, but I want to have that a better ring shape, so I'm going to leave it right where it's at now. That's 7 1/4 right there. There's a little bit of a gap at the top here, so I'm going to go a little beyond, maybe to about an 8 1/4. That's good. It's almost 8 1/2. Wouldn't want to go more than maybe 1 1/2 ring sizes over if you're going to reduce it back, because then you start having problems with the shape coming out kind of weird. Okay, so now we got a ring shape. It's not finished. Some people stop here, but I sell these and I want them to look as good as they possibly can. This is also sharp down here where the center was cut out. So what I like to do first is just take a sanding sponge, and this is 100 grit, and just rub that sharp edge along on the top here, back and forth and in a figure 8. That's nice and smooth now. Now the outer edge of the ring is thicker metal than the rest of the coin. This was the outer edge of the coin. It's now been folded up to become the top edge of the ring. It is thicker, so there's a little ridge there. I like to also sand that off. There's a little line down here that I like to sand out so it's smooth top and bottom. And then I kind of like to flare it out a little bit, this inner edge here, because right now that's straight up and down, and that will be uncomfortable to wear. That'll kind of cut into your finger, especially if the ring is a little tight on you. You'll feel that after a while. So I like to kind of round that out, that edge out, so it's much more comfortable to wear and easier to get on and off. Okay, so in my flex shaft, I have the polishing bit from the last ring that I made, because that's one of the final steps. What I'm going to put in here now is a 240 grit sanding band. It's just Dremel brand, nothing fancy. Okay, I'm going to make sure that's centered by giving it a tap. It's not wobbling, it's spinning nice and smooth. Okay, mask up over my mouth and nose, glasses on. Now I'm going to sand down first that thick outer edge there. looks a little better. You can see that shiny brass coming through where I just sanded. Okay, now I'm going to do that inner edge just a little bit. Sanding band is loose, so I'm going to push it back on. I'm going to run my finger along the inside if I still feel there's a ridge there, and then I sand it some more. If the friction makes it too hot to handle, I just dunk it in the bowl of water over here. That cools it right down. Watching a real-time process video like this gives you a better idea of how much work goes into something like this. Okay, now that little line along the bottom there is what I'm going to smooth out right now. Gotta be real careful, hold it in an angle, go slow. Pot, cool it off. Okay, now the inner edge, the inner bottom edge. Okay, another thing I like to do is what used to be the outer edge of the coin there. These coins are old and they were used quite a bit. So you're going to have some little superficial scratches. If there's any deep scratches or dents, I won't use that token. I'll use that token in a gift set, or I just won't use it at all. But what I like to do is if it has some superficial scratches, and they almost always do, I just like to sand that top a little bit. All right, now it's time for some hand sanding. Actually, no, I think before I do that, I'm going to size it down to 7 1/4, the size that the customer wants. So I'm going to put it in the reducer over here. There's a little plate here with little hollow areas, kind of concave areas, and you just tap a couple of times to make sure it's sitting in there straight. And just grab and pull. And I like to bend down and watch and see how much it's moving, in addition to feeling how much it's moving. I flip it over and do the same thing. Okay, I think this needs to be heated up a little bit because it does not want to move very much. So back on the torch. Almost glowing red. There we go. Now it's moving. Flip it over. I have close-ups of this in that 15-minute video on YouTube here. If you take a look at my channel, you'll find it. Okay, let's see what size it's at now. Got a 7. I'm going to use my other ring sizing manual. Because I find it's just a little more accurate. Okay, it is a 7, so it has to be stretched up just a little bit to 7 1/4. Almost there. There we go. 7 1/4. Okay, now I'm going to do some hand sanding. I'm using a superfine 3M sanding sponge. They're thin. I can't find these in any local hardware stores or any other kind of home improvement stores. Locally, I have to get these on Amazon. All right, superfine. This one's fine. It's a little too rough for this. I'm going to put that back up there. And you can see I really use them. They last a good while. Pretty soon I'm going to have to get some new ones. And I'm just lightly and quickly going over the surface. This is removing that fire scale that is from the torch and removing any little superficial scratches that may be on the metal from years of being used as a token. I'm going to move this out of here. Hope that wasn't banging into the microphone when I was using the flex shaft. I'll have to go back and check the audio. Sorry if it was. Going all the way around to where I started. All right, now you can see it's starting to really look like a decent ring. Okay, top side down. Nope. Come on, focus. There we go. Back and forth. Figure 8. Turn it a half a turn. Back and forth. And check it. Looking good. A little bit more. This is so fine, it's really polishing it more than it is sanding it. Not a lot of metal is coming off. I'm flipping it over and doing the same thing with the bottom side. Okay, looks good. Now I'm looking at this ring, and it's a little off. It's not a perfect ring shape. One side is a little bit more of a cone shape than another. And that may mean that when I punched the center out, it wasn't dead center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to correct that. I'm looking at it to see if the band on the bottom is thicker on one part than any other, and it is. Just a little bit, just a hair, but it's enough to have made this go a little wonky. So I'm just going to take some of that extra metal off that one high side. It looks like it starts right over here. All right. And this is what I meant by correcting it later on. Getting a little hot. Cool it off. And I'm going to get rid of that flat edge, that straight edge that just created. Both inside and outside. All right, now I've got to correct the shape. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit and then reduce it again. And it should reduce straight this time. All right, check the size. Size 7. And check it on my other mandrel. 7. Oh, went a little over. Just a little over. Needs to be reduced just a little bit more. That may have been enough. Whoop. Seven and a quarter, I think. Oh, nope, not quite. See, a lot of times this going back and forth. Reduce, stretch, reduce, stretch. Change not only the shape, but to get the right size. A little bit more. Try not to go over. There we go. 7 and a quarter. Okay. Now a little bit more hand sanding. On the bottom where I just adjusted the shape, where I sanded off on the bottom edge. Let me get over here. So we're at 32 minutes now into making this ring. So you can see it takes a lot longer than the 15-minute condensed video that I uploaded previously. Okay. I'm just pushing the corner of the sanding sponge through the ring and just kind of twirling it around on there to lightly sand the inside, get rid of those superficial scratches, and the fire scale. Now on this ring, on the light background ring, I do a high polish. I don't do a high polish on the dark background ring because what I use to make the background dark is a patina, and I can't polish over that. And I have to lightly sand the excess patina off. So polishing beforehand is kind of pointless because I'm just going to be using the sanding sponge over it anyway. But it still comes out nice and polished, just not highly polished like the light background ring. Okay. Okay, looking good. I still see a bit of a straight, flat edge there that may be uncomfortable to wear. So I'm going to go around the inside once again, just to straighten that out, just to give it a little bit of a flare. Look at that. You see how that moved? A little bit loose. I'm holding the ring at an angle, not straight up and down. So I get that flared edge. And I'm pushing quite hard down on it, so it's creating a lot of friction and it's heating up, so I have to cool it off more often. All right. Now a little hand sanding on the inside. Okay, check it, feel it, see how it feels. make any corrections. I'm going to bring the microphone over here a little. All right, I'm just checking the inside and seeing if there's still a lip, and in some places there is, and I'm going to correct that now. I'm holding it at enough of an angle where I'm not actually taking off any of the lettering or the design on the inside of the ring where it says good for one pair. I'm holding it at enough of an angle where it's only touching that lip that I want to sand down. Okay, hand sanding again. Just the inside. Better, much better. There we go. Okay. Now to make the background dark. Before I do that, I do want to check one thing. I'm going to go on my Etsy account and make absolutely sure of the size this customer ordered. Yes, 7 1/4 dark. Okay, that was easy enough. Okay. Now I'm going to clean the ring with some 91% isopropyl alcohol to make sure I've got all the little sanded bits out of there, dirt, oil from my fingers, and I'm just kind of swirling it around, turning it as I clean it inside and out. Okay, leave that on there. Okay. This is Ranger Patina in black and Vintage Glaze Gloss. I'm going to mix the two because I find I get a better result. I'm just going to put a tiny little dot of this on my work surface. Add a little bit of this glaze gloss to it, which will keep it from drying out too quickly. I've got an old short bristle brush. I'm cleaning it. Yeah. Mix it up. It's still jet black. I'll put the ring on the mandrel, and I just paint around the whole outside. This is not permanent. It will last a good long while as long as the owner of the ring does not expose it to too much water, or wear it while they're, swimming or in a steam room or washing the dishes, or take it off if you're going to be putting your hands in water. Because after a while, it will rub off. And I'm still going to put a clear coat over this. But first, I've got to get this on. I clean the brush right away, but I don't clean up that extra, just in case I need some more. It will harden on the brush really quickly. Okay, now I've got a heat gun here. I'm going to both dry it and heat set it at the same time on high on the heat gun, holding it about 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches away, while constantly turning it. And I would do that if it was plugged in. Okay, yeah, we're going to use the heat gun. I see a little area where it's kind of thin. A little extra on. Cleaning off the brush. Again, I see an area where it's a little thin, a little bit too much of the brass is showing through. Okay, now the tip of this heat gun and that ring and this area of the mandrel is very hot. If you do this, be very careful. If you're not used to using a heat gun, you'll get quite a bad burn if you touch your bare hands to that. Okay, now off camera here, I've got a fan. It's just a small desk fan. I'm going to hold this in front of it for a minute to help cool it off. Okay. It's just slightly warm to the touch. I'm going to slide it off, and with the the alcohol that's still in this paper towel. I'm just going to clean off whatever got on my ring mandrel here. Okay. All right, so that's pretty well on there. It's dried and heat set. Now I'm going to take the fine sanding sponge and sand away the excess, so just the recessed areas of the design have the black in it. Right. I'll show you what it looks like as I do that. Okay, here we go. I'm not pressing down too hard. I don't want to get into the recesses. I just want to take off the top surface. Turning it as I go, checking it to make sure I'm not taking off too much. If I do take off too much, I can just add a little back on. Just have to go through the process again. This is part of the process that I did not show in my 15-minute condensed video of how to make a New York City token ring. We're into 48 minutes now of making this ring start to finish. The dark background ones do take a little bit longer than the plain background ones. Don't have to, you know, there's an extra step in polishing the light background ones and an extra step, you know, that I don't do for these, and an extra step in these, which is this, that I don't do for the others. Okay, now I'm going for the super fine sanding sponge to give it more of a high polish now. I'll show you when I'm finished. I'll hold it up for a close-up. Turn this fan off. Okay, now there's also some that got on the bottom and on the inside just a little, and just sanding sponge, laying it down. We'll take care of that. I've made about 1,000 of these rings over the last few years. Most of my sales come from my Etsy shop, which is also my beadyeyedbeth.com website is through Etsy. So you're still purchasing through Etsy when you go to beadyeyedbeth.com. But if you'd like to see my customer reviews, and I've got something like 250 of them, most of them 5-star, you'd have to go to the actual Etsy.com, beadyeyedbeth. All right, I'm taking a look. Okay, now again, a little bit of alcohol. To clean off that dust. Not too much, I don't want it soaking in. Okay, and just like before, go around, just kind of swirling around. And I've got a nice dark background. Giving it a couple of seconds to focus. It may not. Oh, there we go. Now I got to center it. Again, if you want to see close-up pictures, you can go to beadyeyedbeth.com. I've got all my jewelry on there. Okay, I'm just going to quickly clean out the inside. Give the outside just a little bit. Put it down. And now comes the clear coat. This is a professional clear coat called Protect-A-Clear. I'm going to have to get a new jar soon. All my brass rings, token rings and all, get dipped in this. My aluminum bracelets, I also put a coating of this on so you don't have aluminum sitting right up against your skin. Okay, just hooking on a piece of fine copper wire. Let me get it over to a lighter area. Here. Hooked at both ends. Now just take it and dip it in, swirling around, bring it out, scrape off the excess, and there's still going to be excess even after I do this. This stuff is quite stinky when it is wet. When it's dry, it is odorless. But while it's wet, it's got quite an odor. Okay, I'm just taking the edge of a paper towel here and just dabbing off the inside where it's pooling because gravity works. And just gonna see a little extra coming off there. Okay. Now I hang it up here to dry. And every, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, I will jiggle it so it's a new part of the ring is facing down. So I won't get that little drop pooling at the bottom. I also take that little desk fan and point it on there. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat set it a little first because I think that it does help. It helps it from wearing off too quickly. And just jiggling it around. Not only does that help dry it and heat set it, but this Protect-A-Clear is also a barrier from the metal, between the metal and your skin. So your skin doesn't, if you have a tendency, if you wear copper or brass, your skin turns that ashy, greenish, gray color. This is also a temporary solution that people used to put clear nail polish on the inside of their rings. You can still do that, but this is not a permanent solution. That's why I send a ring care sheet with instructions on it, on how to take care of your ring to make it last as long as possible. Because it's not fine jewelry, it's a novelty item. It is brass, not gold. And here is my very sophisticated drawing method. I usually have 4, 5, or 6 of them up here at a time doing this. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just making one. Just to keep it as short as we can. We're into 57 minutes now. So figure by the time it's dry, it'll be a little over an hour, start to finish. And that's about what each ring takes. So that's it. If you like this video, please like, thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be making more videos of different kinds of jewelry and crafts. So there'll be a little bit of something for everyone. Because I like to make many different types of things. I like to work with polymer clay. I like to make paper beads. I like to decoupage. I like to work with metal clay. Seed beads. There's just so many things to make. So this is an all-around craft channel. Please visit my website, www.beadyeyedbeth.com. Don't forget the D at the end of eyed. And that's it. Tomorrow's Friday, TGIF. So I hope you all have a great weekend. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. And hopefully I will be live streaming on here on a regular basis very soon. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.